I still remember the night I almost didn't take that walk. It had been one of those days where the weight of the world sat squarely on my shoulders, pressing down so hard I thought I might not get up again the next morning. I wasn't looking for anything that evening. No answers, no revelations, no dramatic turning points. I just needed air. So I put on my coat, shoved my hands deep into the pockets, and let the quiet streets guide my footsteps. It was colder than usual for that time of year. The kind of cold that makes you wish you'd stayed inside. But something, call it restlessness, call it fate, kept pushing me forward until I found myself at the old bridge on the edge of town. The bridge wasn't special. It wasn't even particularly beautiful. But it was quiet, and on nights like that, quiet felt like a gift. That's when I saw him. At first, I thought I was alone. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a figure standing at the railing, still as stone. He didn't move when I approached, didn't glance my way. He just stared down at the black water below, the way people do when they're lost in thought or when they're trying to find the courage to do something they can't take back. I slowed down, unsure if I should keep walking. I told myself it was none of my business. People came to the bridge for all kinds of reasons. Maybe he was just thinking, like I was. But there was something about the way his hands gripped the railing, knuckles white, shoulders trembling, that made my heart beat faster. I don't know what came over me, but I heard my voice before I realized I was speaking. "Hey," I called softly. "You okay out here?" For a moment, he didn't answer. Then, without turning his head, he said, "Do I look okay?" His voice was rough, raw, the sound of someone fighting to keep from breaking apart. I took a step closer, cautiously. "No," I admitted. "You don't." Finally, he turned to look at me. He was younger than I expected, maybe mid-20s, though the lines on his face made him look older. His eyes were red, his hair disheveled, and his whole body shook as though he'd been standing in the cold far too long. "You should probably just keep walking," he muttered. "I could," I said, "but something tells me you'd rather I didn't." He gave a short, bitter laugh. "You don't know me. You don't know anything about me." "That's true," I agreed. "But I know that standing on a bridge at midnight, looking down at the water like that, usually means someone's carrying more than they can handle, and I know what that feels like." His eyes narrowed as if he didn't believe me, or maybe as if he wanted to. I waited. Sometimes silence says more than words. Finally, he whispered, "I don't think I can do this anymore." "Do what?" I asked gently. "Live." The word hung in the air between us, heavy and final. My chest tightened, because I knew that feeling all too well. I had been there once, years ago. Different bridge, different night, but the same crushing hopelessness. I had thought no one could understand then, but somehow, someone had reached me. Now, looking at this stranger, I realized it was my turn. I leaned against the railing a few feet from him, keeping my tone calm. "You know, a long time ago, I thought about giving up too. I was so sure no one would care, that the world would just keep turning without me, maybe even be better off. But I was wrong. People did care, and I would have missed out on a lot of moments I didn't even know were waiting for me." He shook his head. "Yeah, well, good for you. But that's not me. I've screwed up too much. I've lost too much. There's nothing left for me." "You'd be surprised," I said quietly. "Sometimes the best parts of life show up after you think it's all over. But you've got to be here to see them." He turned his face back to the water. "I don't even know who I am anymore." "Maybe that's okay," I told him. "Maybe this is where you get to start over. You don't need to have all the answers tonight. You just need to get through tonight." The silence stretched. I could hear the faint rush of the river below, the wind whistling through the metal beams of the bridge. I wondered if I was saying the right things, if anything could even matter in a moment like this. But then, slowly, he loosened his grip on the railing. His shoulders sagged as though he was letting go of something heavier than his own body. "Why are you even talking to me?" he asked. Suddenly, "Because someone once talked to me I said, and it made all the difference. He stared at me for a long time. Then his lips trembled, and he let out a shaky breath that sounded almost like a sob. We stood there for a while, not speaking. I didn't push him. I just stayed. Sometimes presence matters more than words. Eventually, he stepped back from the edge. Do you think it gets better?" he asked. "I don't just think it," I said. "I know it, but only if you stick around to find out." He gave me the faintest nod, as if clinging to that fragile thread of hope. And in that moment, I realized I didn't even know his name. But maybe names didn't matter. What mattered was that he was still here. That night, on a lonely bridge in the middle of nowhere, I learned something I'll never forget. Sometimes we don't find hope on our own. We borrow it from someone else until we can carry it ourselves again. And maybe that's why I was meant to take that walk.